Right, let's welcome in our running guest. K. Subramaniam is now joining us. We have SV Prasad as well as Vijay Chopra. Imtiaz Qureshi will join us in just a bit. Vijay, let's start with you. What are your top picks?
I'd like to recommend my stocks for today. My first call is BHEL, BHEL. The stock has moved up quite considerably from 150 odd levels, and I think there's a lot of steam left in BHEL, and the stock closed at 173 rupees. I would recommend a target of 185 and a stop loss of 165 should be strictly kept on the stock. My second call would be Bank of Baroda. Again, I see a lot of action in the banking space, especially in the public sector banking space. The stock closed at 176 rupees. It could be bought for a target of 185 and the second target of 190, and a stop loss of 168 should be kept on the stock. My final call would be India Bulls Real Estate. The stock shot up from 90 odd levels in last few sessions, and I think that it can go up to 120. So if somebody buys into the stock and holds on with the short-term perspective, I think it can easily inch up to 120 odd levels. But I recommend a stop loss of 98 on the stock.
Vijay, for India Bull Real Estate, what we can pick up is there is also a restructuring which is likely to be announced. That's the residential business and the commercial business that they own. They are likely to split that business into two. And for the commercial entity, where PE deals have been very active, they are likely to raise some money. Will that be positive, or do you think markets have largely factored in with the recent move that there could be a corporate action over there?
Well, I think that this should be largely positive. Whenever any company raises capital and the raising of the capital is happening at the right valuation, I think that it's good for the company. And even in the charts, the stock looks very convincing. And I suppose that 120 is a level which it can easily ramp up to.
Right, SV, what are your calls?
Good morning, Pankaj. Good morning, Anisha. Good morning, everyone. I continue to like State Bank of India. I think that secular sort of price increase which we're seeing across public sector and among the lot, I always like the leader, so that's a stock that I continue to like. I continue to like the oil and gas sector, with government clear about steadily decreasing subsidies on kerosene and LPG, and continuing with the policy of creeping increase in prices and reducing the subsidy element. Again, is a good sign. I also like the distillery and the brewery business. I think one should go against the market in the sense that everybody is worried because of Supreme Court order. Yes, that's definitely a big impact for all these guys. I'm not for a moment saying that just jump into it, but buy at every decline, almost like doing an SIP on some of these counters, because these are great names, great brands. And let's face it, this is not a business which you can buy through an Amazon or through a Flipkart or anything. This is a business where you need to actually go and physically buy. And with the demographics, younger population, increased income, more social acceptance for drinking, I like both these, both United Spirits as well as United Breweries.
All right, Subra, what are your top picks for the day?
To begin with, Biono Sun Pharma. Now here we have seen some positive action in many of the pharma counters last week, and that could possibly continue this week. So Bio Sun Pharma for a possible target of 735, gave a stop loss of 681. Second one is a cement counter which has been very much the limelight, India Cement. Possibly could be bought for a possible target of 172 and stop loss of 158. Third one is a sell on Bharti. We did see a crack on Thursday. Now there is nervousness building up at higher levels. So possibly this could slide to levels of 330, could be sold, and one could keep a stop loss of 349.
Right. Imtiaz, what are your top picks?
Very good morning, Anisha, Pankaj. No doubt the market likely to open with a negative tone, but still my base remain positive. So what I recommend today is Dr. Reddy's. We have seen last week one bull candle, and after that consecutively 5 downturn candle, and some last 2 trading session we have seen some consolidation, and some U-turn is likely to happen in Dr. Reddy's. So buy with a stop loss of 2534 with a target of 2960. After that, I would be recommending Bajaj Auto. We have seen very good positive momentum from last couple of trading sessions, but the last session what we had seen was actually the breakout point for the Bajaj Auto. So buy with a stop loss of 2750 for the target of 3020. And lastly, Axis Bank. We have seen the positiveness. Still, the market is going down, but the banks are getting supported at the lower level. So I think so today, Axis Bank, or maybe in the coming day, Axis Bank will try to move out higher and try to break most of the resistance level. So buy with a stop loss of 492 for the target of 560.
Right. Apart from this, some of the other names that will be in focus. So Dr. Reddy's from Pharma Pack would be in focus. Would not be surprised if it's actually in the green today. So they had their new facility, the API facility. It's a new facility which they have started, and they had the first inspection, the first ever inspection at this plant, where they have received a go-ahead, or rather they have not received any observation in the Form 483, which means the facility is good and it's up and running. As of now, there are no revenues. As I told you, it's the first ever inspection. So it's a new plant that was being inspected for the first time, and it is got good clearance. Remember, they have their 3 plants under FDA scanner, under warning letter. All 3 have got mixed responses, but in the last 6 months now, you have seen almost about 4 different plants of Dr. Reddy's being inspected, and 3 out of them actually did very, very well. Another stock that will be in focus will be Infosys. So we focused on it on Thursday with results, what the management is saying, what was the implication, and now you have brokerage calls. Across the board, there have been cuts as far as Infosys is concerned. So you look at Kotak, it's down, it's cut its EPS by 5%, but the target price is largely unchanged. IDFC, 3% cut, 1120 is the new target price. CLSA maintains its underperformer, target price around 990. Also, there is an EPS cut over there. Nomura was slightly aggressive versus the markets. 1,000 rupees is now their new target price. 7 to 8% is the EPS cut. And Morgan Stanley, also 1,000 rupees target price. They were earlier overweight, and now they have moved to equal weight with a 5% EPS cut. So Infosys, again, should be in focus.
All right. They were on earnings. We got earnings coming in from Bajaj Corp as well, which was slightly disappointing. Though on the face of it, it looks like a flat performance. Sales down about 2%, profits too down about 3%. What was really disappointing was the volume growth. So, all the talk about demonetization impact being there, some of it perhaps showing in consumer spending for Bajaj Corporation. We saw EBITDA lower at 65.9 crore rupees versus 75 crore rupees on a year-on-year basis in Q4. The EBITDA margins also shrank to 32.3% versus 36% in the same period a year ago, and volumes of almond hair oil were down 7%. So disappointing earnings coming in from Bajaj Corp.
Right. If you look at DCB Bank, again, there was an increase as far as gross NPA is concerned. But if you look at the numbers overall, they are broadly decent or mixed, one can say. There are some positives as well as some negatives. 220 crores is the NII number. Profit number is at 52 crores. That's a decline of around 23% Operating profit, that gives you a better or a cleaner picture, came in at 115 crores. So broadly positive as far as operating profits is concerned. But if you look at gross NPA, 1.6%. Flat, but on a QOQ basis, if you look at the absolute number, there was an increase of about 12%. Slippages were broadly flat on a QOQ basis. Advances grew by 22%, deposits grew by 29%. They continue to be aggressive as far as their branch opening is concerned. So DCB Bank will be a stock in focus. In the pre-open session, Anisha, DCB is indicating a 5% decline, maybe because of the gross NPA, which increased by 12% on a quarter-on-quarter basis.
Right. In more earnings, Reliance Infrastructure came out with the earnings, which were again somewhat mixed. Let's take it through the earnings. Total income coming in at 6,145 crore rupees versus 6,910 crore rupees. On a year-on-year basis, total income was lower. But we did see a turnaround in the bottom line. They had a profit of 41 crore rupees versus a loss of 327 crore rupees. EBITDA was also high at 1,793 crore rupees. Their order book at the end of FY17 stood at 5,960 crore rupees. They added about 2.3 lakh new customers in Mumbai, and the revenues from the infrastructure business were up 13%. So a reasonable quarter coming in for Reliance Infrastructure.
Right. Anisha, just as we move ahead, there is an announcement which has come in from India Bulls, and the announcement is that companies had a board meeting today morning where they have considered the possibility of streamlining its existing residential, commercial and leasing business by segregating commercial and leasing business carried on by itself through a SPV and vesting the same into Indiabulls commercial assets. So basically just separating the two business. So they have towers here in Mumbai, and that's a commercial property that they have, which is now a part of India Bull Real Estate. There you can see the flashes at the bottom of your screen. Commercial and the leasing business to be demerged as far as India Bulls is concerned. Probably that is something which it was a buzz around in the street that this is likely to happen, but definitely their leasing business, their commercial business, it's going to be demerged. Their residential business, it is now separate two entities that we are looking at. As we recently, if you look at private equity deals, in commercial they've got great value. In residential, they have not been that active. You think that could be the motive behind it? They have great commercial assets, that's India Bull Real Estate, but because it's merged with the real estate business, maybe it's not attracting investments.
Yeah, Pankaj, you know that I've never been a great fan of the real estate sector as such, because there's a lot of opaqueness attached to it. But as far as this particular counter is concerned, whatever little I know, I must confess that I don't track it on a very detailed or regular basis. What you say certainly could be the reason. And I've always maintained that from an equity investor's point of view, there are so many other avenues, sectors, corporates available. It's better to look at those rather than some of these, rather than something like real estate. And off late, my views on IT pack as well, because I think the arbitrage story is over and they need to get back to something else. So to come back to this, I think the reason is for what you have mentioned. And, I continue to mention my, lack of enthusiasm for this sector as such.
Right. Vijay, you mentioned about this company in the morning that it would be a part of your top picks. It has done well, and now you get this announcement. You think markets would take it positively?
Well, more or less, I think it should be a positive announcement, because, I think that they want to demerge the profitable entities. And I think that, the kind of assets which India Bull Real Estate has as of now are marquee assets. And I think that they can spin off, good revenues over a period of time. But yes, let's see, wait and watch how market reacts. But my take is that, definitely the reaction of the market is not going to be rancid, and is going to be good over a period of time, yes.
Right. Markets you think are interestingly looking in for rental assets. That's what this commercial business provides for India Bull Real Estate.
Well, definitely look at DLF. They had spun off their rental business quite a bit to a lot of PE players, and we have the likes of Blackstone have invested in their businesses. So I think that India Bull Real Estate also has some marquee assets, as I mentioned, and they can do a fantastic rental model. And look at their properties in the lower Parel area, where you have all the top offices in Bombay, and so many other places. So I think that they are doing a great job in developing their commercial assets, and rental business is also a very good money spinning profitable model.
Right. Just about 30 seconds remaining for markets to open. The real estate sector has been on the positive side. Maybe this news is taken positively. India Bull Real Estate will be a stock to watch out for. We discussed about Dr. Reddy's, some results like Reliance, Infra, DCB Bank, Bajaj Corporation. Let's see how do they open. Out of that, DCB was showing a big pop down. It was down around 5% in the pre-open. But pre-open prices are sometime all over the place, especially for companies that do not trade a lot, which DCB would be a part of. But in a long time, they've given a decent dividend of 50 paisa. So let's see how the markets react to that. Here are the first prices for you. Sensex is down 8 odd points. Nifty is down about 5 odd points. BPCL flat, right now into the green. Aurobindo Pharma 2 rupees lower. Cipla 1 to 2 rupees higher. That's India Bull Real Estate for you, 3 to 4% higher, 110 right now, 4 rupees on the higher side. Remember, it's done pretty well in the last few days, so maybe there was a hint regarding what's happening as far as India Bulls is concerned, but very, very strong volumes, almost 10 lakh shares already traded in the first few minutes of trading session. That's India Bull Real Estate for you. Let's look at Dr. Reddy's and what's happening over there, 2.7%. As I told you, it's a new plant, so it was expected to do well. And generally when people make new plants, they take care of all the violations or all the good manufacturing practices, and that's why it's probably got that clearance, but it comes in as a positive surprise. Infosys, second day in a row, today down 4 rupees. The day before yesterday, that's on Thursday, it was down around 3% or so. Bajaj Corporation, let's look at what's happening over there. It's down 5%. Remember, it was a big miss on the volume front. 27,000 shares traded. Bajaj Corporation 5% on the lower side for Bajaj Corp. DCB is also down about 4.5%, 171, 172 for DCB Bank. That's also reacting to numbers. Let's see what happens over there. Reliance Infra, 3 rupees higher. No change, actually, one can say. So numbers are actually definitely below estimates, but I think there are some one-off adjustments. 12 p.m. today is when they have their conference call, and that's where a lot of people are expecting clarity to come in. Reliance Infra is slightly on the positive side. Oil marketing companies have increased prices, but I don't think that they are going up because of that. Recently, they have done well, and all of them continue to do well. BPCL 736. Just I think 2 weeks back, it was around 650. HPCL was about 40 rupees lower, and now it's around 565. I don't think it's got to do with the price hike that they have taken. It's just a positive momentum that continues to maintain. Grasim, 23,000 shares traded, 12 to 13 rupees higher, 1,063 for Grasim Limited. There is some news flow regarding what FIs can do into this name. Bharti Airtel, 29,000 shares traded, not much in terms of movement, just about 1 or 2 rupees here and there. So it's not much that you're looking at in this large cap movers. Anisha, any other names that you can pick up?
Well, Pankaj, DCB is down quite a bit on its earnings. They were mixed, but the street hasn't liked it. It's down 5%. Okay, now down 3.5%. We've got some profit taking in metal names. Vedanta, Hindalco, Tata Steel, all on high volumes, has seen a little bit of profit taking today. On the gaining side, we've got one-off names like Texmo Pipes and Products up 14%. We have Indiabulls Wholesale Services up 11%. Indiabulls, of course, is up 5%. Indiabulls Ventures is up 5%. And Indiabulls Real Estate is up 3%. So one-off, some of these names are one-off like Texmo Pipes and Products. Imtiaz, we're seeing this move coming into Indiabulls Real Estate. On the charts, are there any real estate stocks that you like? Would you recommend any of them?
Yes, Anisha, I think so. They are the two stocks which looks very much favorable on the chart. No doubt, Indiabulls Real Estate is one of them, because in the month of May 2016, I'm talking about past almost 1 year, there was a top of 105 which got called up this time after maybe a 1 year. So this is a very big breakout for Indiabulls Housing Finance, Indiabulls Real Estate. So I think so this is going to give a very big momentum for Indiabulls Real Estate, and we should keep a buy on decline strategy for the Indiabulls Real Estate. And the next would be a DLF. DLF looks very much attractive at this level, and I think there is a potential for DLF to make a recent new high somewhere around about 100 plus. So DLF and both looks very much positive for me in real estate pack.
Right. Shubhra, what did you see when it came to open interest additions? Some of the oil marketing companies, a stock like BPCL has seen a very big move over the last 6 trading sessions, and on Thursday saw a very large candle coming in. Do you think it's headed much higher from here? It's around the resistance levels of 740 or so. What levels are you watching out for BPCL?
Alisha, I think broadly the OMCs have attracted a lot of buying even in the cash front. So I think the open interest, of course, on the back of the moves technically, which has just cleared some very strong resistances. So I think they are clearly, maybe very near term, we could see some profit taking, because I think they are a bit stretched on them. I mean, we could say they are all overbought. But I think any declines, the appetite is so huge that you're going to see the buying coming about. So I won't be surprised another, at least in the near to medium term, spike up to 5 to 6% coming about in all the OMCs.
Right. SV, you've always liked oil marketing companies. Even after the recent up move, do you think valuations are not very expensive? One can look at mediocre returns even from your own?
Yeah, see, Pankaj, again, if you look at sector by sector, some of the other sectors, I mean, I mentioned about United Spirits. I think one caveat is that the price earnings are extremely high. There's going to be a short-term negative impact on earnings. Now, if you compare, in spite of that, I like that sector, but if you compare that with oil marketing companies, you see the valuations are still fairly reasonable. And again, aspirational society, more people are buying automobiles, etc. in India. And government clearly focused on bringing down the subsidy element. And therefore, there's all the more reasons why one should look at these companies. And these companies are also looking at petrochemical complexes. So given all that is why I like this sector as a general pack. Obviously, one has to be careful because what we need to appreciate is Indian markets as such have run up a lot, and this sector has run up. So one has to therefore keep that in mind, that the kind of returns we have seen in the last year or so is not going to be easy to replicate, because now you look at earnings and there'll be a kind of a re-rating of PE once all the first quarter results are out. The one other quick thing I just wanted to tell about real estate is that typically in India, commercial real estate has got much higher yields than residential real estate, and especially a lot of these PE funds which are looking at annuity, they're always willing to look at buy some of these properties. I thought I'll just mention. So real estate players who have a decent stock in commercial real estate can always refinance those properties a lot easier as opposed to residential. Well, residential by definition is a self-financing sort of a scheme, but many times what happens is it doesn't pan out because of already the stock that is there. Therefore, this is a sector that one has to invest in after doing a lot of analysis. It's not an easy sector to understand, opaqueness, stamp duty. Now, Supreme Court has recently said that you can't do any more transfers on power of attorney basis, which means that the builder has to transfer the property in their name, which means you pay one level of stamp duty and then you transfer it to the ultimate buyer. So, there are lots of challenges that are there, and they are kept out of the GST as well. So, when you're analyzing this, you need to very carefully analyze those sectors which are out of GST, because state levies, etc. also come into play.
Right. Talking about earnings, Vijay, Yes Bank and IndusInd Bank would be reporting numbers this week. Do you expect them to report good set of numbers as they have been doing for the past few quarters?
Well, I think so. I would suppose so, because one, that they've had a good control over their asset quality, and Yes Bank particularly, they've kept their NPAs below 1%, which is stupendous. And I think that slowly this bank can go up to 2,000 rupees. There might be blips, and the stock might react with the markets, but I think that it's a fairly strong contender in the private banking space. And I suppose that results are also going to be good, and if they are good, I would see the stock at 1,700.
Right. Vijay, everybody says that, enough is enough. Some of these banks one day will report, bad NPAs or slightly higher provisioning. So do you think if they continue to report inline numbers, the sort of profit growth that you see, that's at least the return that could be expected over a period of time?
Well, this is really, you can't doubt the corporate governance practices these companies have. HDFC has been doing a good job over a period of last, so many decades now. And they have shown consistent profitability, consistency in their, maintaining their NPAs at a very low level. And the asset quality has been good. Vis-a-vis, if you look at ICICI Bank, they have been, often on flip-flops. So I would say that, that considering that the corporate governance practices are good and they are not misreporting, I think that, there is a lot of steam still left in these banks and in these counters. And of course, in the markets, anything can go haywire, go wrong anytime. We have seen Satyams of the world happening, but again, on the face of it, things look good for private banks. And I think that overall banking sector is a good sector to have in a portfolio with the next, 3 to 5 year perspective.
Right. Subra, how would Yes Bank, IndusInd Bank look on charts ahead of numbers?
Well, definitely they have been, Yes Bank and IndusInd Bank have been outperformers, and they continue to look good on the charts. And I think Yes Bank in particular, again, of course, any disappointment possibly could bring the stock down to maybe around 1550 thereabouts. But I think broadly, there will be buying coming about. So I think if we do have some sort of outperformance, 1650 should be well on target for Yes Bank.
Right. Imtiaz, TCS also declares numbers. How is that looking on the charts?
Pankaj, no doubt, entire IT sectors are showing a meltdown, and I think so. The TCS is also one of them after the post result of Infosys. Even the short-term chart and long-term chart are showing the negativeness. I believe that TCS will become positive only once it goes about 2400. Until it doesn't go about 2400, I think so. This downside rally will continue, and we can see somewhere the cut should go somewhere around 2200 or 2230.
Right. Any other names? HCL, Wipro, how are they looking ahead of results?
Okay, as I said, that entire IT sectors, I'm talking about Nifty IT sector indices are showing the negativeness. So I don't think so there could be any momentum going to build up on the long side. And if any pullback comes, I think so that will be sold off into the profit booking, or maybe you can say fresh short getting built up at higher level. And even the dollars are coming down. So this is a very much cause of worry for the entire IT sectors on the longer term.
Right. Subrat, today we are seeing Sun Pharma down quite heavily. You, I think, had it is one of your picks. What's your when you look at the open interest editions, which are the pharma stocks that are seeing a lot of interest?
Well, Sun Pharma actually has been showing some sort of bottom formation, and of course, it's not been a pretty difficult trading to stock. But I think closer to levels of around 650, it has some decent support coming about. And we could see the stock actually stabilizing, and my sense is that last week we did see this stock doing well along with Lupin. So my sense is that we should see some recovery on the way, and we have also seen the likes of Dr. Reddy doing well. So I think Pharma could be the one which could possibly stabilize in the coming weeks.
All right. Vijay, what do you do with some of these stocks, REC, PFC? Last week we saw big moves coming in there, and after that up move, they really haven't fallen. They're just consolidating. Do you think they make investment bets even now after the kind of price move they've seen?
Well, definitely. I would say that in all the power trading companies, whether it's REC, PTC, PFC, there is still a lot of value, and I would say that these stocks could, go another 15 to 20% higher within, a 12 to 18 month perspective, and they still have a lot of steam. So rather than power generation companies, I would recommend to be into power trading companies, and these companies should do good over a period of time. Their order books are fantastically strong, and I think that they will do good with a medium to long term perspective. Even with a short term perspective, I think that they can respond well. So all these companies look good to me right now.
All right, so positive on some of the power trading and power finance companies. Mr. Prasad, what about the housing finance companies like LIC Housing Finance? There doesn't seem to be any stopping the stock price from going up. Do you think one should now look at booking some profits in some of these counters if investors had entered earlier? Should one just hold on to these stocks?
I think it's always good to book some profits, in any and every stock, especially if your holding is been more than 1 year, especially some of these counters, because they've really kind of gone up. Now, the only thing is, do you book the profit before the Jan-March results or after the Jan-March results? I would tend to believe that some of these counters which have really run up, like LIC Housing, etc., it would perhaps make sense to book some profits before the Jan-March results, because sometimes the expectations run much more optimistic than what the real numbers, the actual numbers come in. So I would tend to always believe that a little bit of profit, profit has to be ultimately in your hand. Profit can't be only on, on paper, on valuation. So I would definitely say that it makes sense to book some profit.
All right, makes sense to book profits in some of these housing finance companies that have moved up very well. Vijay, do you have a view on Reliance Infrastructure? We have seen strong moves coming in some of the infrastructure stocks, but this one has been a slow and steady mover. How would you view this counter?
Well, I think if you look at the next 4-5 years, and Prime Minister Modi has been constantly talking about the investment in the infra space, and how they're going to work on developing the infrastructure in India. And I think that any company which is there is having a stable platform and a stable balance sheet should benefit from all this infrastructure play. Rail infra should also be a beneficiary. I think that the stock can go up to 625, 630. So can be bought into in dips. It is trading at a low valuation as of now, but I think that in a dip it can be bought into.
Right. SV, what do you do with something like a DCB bank? There was an increase in the gross NPA and the stock is down 6%. Is that a buying opportunity?
Not really, Pankaj. I have always maintained that it's better to stick to the bigger players. I mean, you got enough and more options available in terms of HDFC Bank, Kotak Bank, IndusInd, etc. ICICI Bank, etc. Now, why do you want to really, fish in troubled water? So I would much rather, okay, you may be buying some of these counters at a slightly higher valuation, but at least the visibility of earnings is there. And a lot of these companies have shown quarter on quarter steady growth in top line, bottom line, etc. So I would much rather stick to those rather than looking at some of these counters.
Right. Right now, we can also just pull up Unichem Lab. That's a stock which is down about 4% They had recently got a plant problem in their Goa plant. And maybe, there are some details regarding that. It's down about 2% right now. SV, overall on the pharma pack, what will be your call?
Pharma I've always liked. I mentioned. I still continue to like Sun Pharma. I didn't mention it in the beginning, in my opening observations. Another company which I like, I think one of our other fellow panelists also mentioned, is Dr. Reddy's. But Dr. Reddy's among the Indian pharma pack in terms of their relationship with FDA, I think has been excellent right from day one. I think it's an institutionalized culture that Dr. Reddy has put in place. Sun Pharma, I think, is slowly coming out of its problem. A lot of the problems came out of the merger that happened. So I like the pharma pack in general. Yes, things are going to be different because obviously quality, etc. is important. So both Sun Pharma and Reddy's is something I like. Again, it's better to stick to the top companies rather than looking at some of the other names, down the charts as far as this sector is concerned.
Also, if you look at pharma pack, you think returns would now be more stock specific rather than the entire sector which did well in the last 6 years?
Absolutely. Absolutely. No question about it. I think this is true across various sectors. I think the sector game is more or less over now because the markets have already run up so much. So you have to do a bottom up rather than looking at, okay, this sector I like and let me do darts and get into any stock or a seemingly low price stock in that sector. Now that's not going to work anymore.
Right. Vijay, what will be your call on PVR? There are two brokerage reports which suggest a positive stance. Despite the recent run-up, high valuations, would you be positive on PVR as well?
Well, there are times when stocks trade at a higher valuation. They keep on trading and they are expensive, but they are good. Now, PVR is a quality stock. If you look at the entertainment scenario in India, I think that it is one of the strongest brand which is there with a pan-India footprint. My take is that, this can even go to 1700 and I like the stock and if somebody has in a portfolio, he can surely hold on to. And I completely agree, while it is expensive, but even on the charts right now, it doesn't seem to crack. So my take is that, it can be held on to, even added in dips, and my target for the stock would be 1700.
Right. 1700 is your target price and currently it's around 1580. What should be the approach if somebody has not got into the stock?
Well, I suppose, as I said, that, if you get the stock in a dip around 1550, maybe somewhere between 1500 and 1550, one can get into the stock and, wait until the stock reaches 1700. But again, it's a very strong contender, strong company, strong set of numbers. Very strong brand. So I would recommend a hold and a buy, buy on dip strategy on PVR.
Right. Subra, what is your call on Adani Ports? It's fallen off after the Adani Power verdict. Is that a buying opportunity or it's broken some levels on the downside?
Pankaj, broadly, I think this is group which actually I've been liking the last few weeks. And of course, last week on the back of the Adani Power, we did see the sell-off coming about in all the counters. And but I think closer to levels. So of course, the fact that they are all part of the FNO also triggers a lot of shorts as well as long unwinding. But it has had an incredible run. So I think, but closer to levels of 320, I think we should see some buying coming about, and just a matter of time before it stabilizes.
Right, but is this a buying opportunity?
I would think so.
Right, and you said the group is looking good. So any view on Adani Power, Adani Transmission if you track these names?
Adani Transmission, I think technically it had rallied right up to levels of 90. Just a bit, definitely a bit stretched. But I think, again, it closer to levels of 70, 75. If it cools down, I think you'll see some buying coming about. And in fact, the entire rest of the pack, like Adani Enterprises, Adani Power also, I think the big slam down that we saw, the counter receiving post that verdict, I think second on the level, counter levels of closer to 30. But I'm sure, I think some short covering should come before the expiry. And we could see the positive action returning in on all these counters.
Right. Any view on Natco Pharma, Subra? Do you track that name?
In fact, I was just going to mention that. I think that is one stock I think has been on a tearaway rally. I mean, a pharma sector which has been languishing in this overall market rally. This has been one stock which has been a revelation. I think they're also very strong into oncology, etc. That's what I hear. We don't track these stock as such, but definitely a counter which should be bought at declines. Definitely, if the pharma turns around, I think this should be one counter which should do extremely well. But I would advise buying at declines.
Right. So at what level would you look to buy, and say if pharma rally turns around, what will be your target price?
My sense is closer to levels of 850. I think I would be comfortable buying into Natco Pharma.
Right. But if you look at Natco's chart, it never really goes down. So should one wait till 850, or should you just buy at this point of time?
Well, as I mentioned, it's the fact that it has been totally been opposite to the entire pharma trend. 850 is just a comfort level, but I would advise probably one could accumulate. But 850 would be a more comforting level. You never know, some news flow might take the counter down, stock down to those levels. But I'm not suggesting it will go down there. But an accumulation, but 850 would be a safer place to buy it.
Right. Just a word, Subra, on Grasim. If you could just look in the last few days or since the time the stock split has happened, has it gained a lot of traction in terms of volumes, in terms of price action? It's starting reacting to a lot more buying versus at 4,400 that it used to do earlier?
I would think so, because I think now the stock is also, the liquidity has increased post the split. So I think closer to levels of, but right now it's looking a bit toppish, and probably some selling is coming about closer to levels of 1100. So I would probably wait and watch, and maybe wait for the counter to levels, come down to levels of 1000, 1025. But definitely those levels, I'm sure the appetite will again go up, and we should see some strong buying coming about.
Right. SV, what is your call on Infosys after the recent results and the marginal EPS cuts that have come in?
See, I've always, I've been bearish on this sector for some time, and that includes Infosys as well. Because unless and until they get a completely new strategy going, I would generally advise investors, and given the fact that rupee has strengthened vis-a-vis dollar and many other currencies, given this whole business of the whole visa story that's panning out in US, I think it's better to keep away. If at all you want to play the export game, I would always say that look at some of the pharma counters rather than the IT pack.
Right. Imtiaz, I just wanted to ask about India Bull Real Estate. Now, of course, we've discussed it on the deal side as to what is happening. But if you look at the chart today morning, it went to 110, then it went to 102, and now it's back to 112. Does that suggest that there is genuine buying into this counter after this deal? Imtiaz, what is your call on India Bull Real Estate after today's volatile movement?
Yes, Pankaj, as I said earlier also, I'm looking very much positive on India Bull Real Estate because as I said, 105 was a very big resistance which was formed in 2016 May, and after maybe you can say very close to 1 year that resistance has been broken out. So the stock is entering into the big bull side, you can say, and I believe that maybe 130, 140 is easily achievable for India Bull Real Estate.
Right. Subra, if you could just look at the charts of today for India Bull Real Estate and tell us what's happening. So after the news, it opened at 110, then it went down to 102, 103, and now it's back to 113. What does it tell you? Is there genuine buying after the recent F&O adjustments?
Well, this has been one stock which has been prone to getting into the F&O ban very now and then. But broadly, I think if I were to take a call on the overall real estate pack, this has been one counter actually which has attracted a lot of buying attention, and it has technically it looks probably the best of the lot in the real estate pack. Probably near term we could see some sort of volatility coming about. But as today's demerger possibly is more treated as positively for the stock, and we have already seen the stock reacting positively in the last couple of days. It's up almost 15%. Probably some cooling off could be seen, but broadly I think at declines you will see some buying coming out.
Right, but this movement tells you that there is genuine buying. It's not only F&O buying or selling, which generally happens in the real estate pack.
Well, we have heard this buzz that some large SNIs have moved into this counter in the last few months. I think there's definitely serious buying coming about in this counter, and if you see the overall chart also, this has actually not seen the sort of volatility that we have seen in other counters. So I think definitely at lower levels, probably the momentum should again return, and we could probably see the buying continue.
Right. As we have spoken about India Bull Real Estate, but do you think that markets are waiting for yields assets, especially commercial yields asset, and anytime in in the future also, if you see any other listed company coming out with REITs or coming out with different sort of investment relating to rental assets, you think that it will receive a positive reaction?
Oh, certainly. I think this is a kind of a development which was long overdue. And now that the clearly SEBI and government, everybody is pushing on REITs, etc. And as I mentioned, a lot of the PE players, the whole lot of private equity players who would like these kind of annuities. A lot of pension players would like annuities to come. So people like Canada Pension Board and others who are looking at India quite closely. And given that if our inflation levels are down, our currency is steady, then I think this will be a great opportunity for some of these guys. And definitely one has to look at this space from that point of view. And India Bulls has been an exception. I agree with Subra. There's been interest because largely because of perhaps this reason.
Right now it's up around 6%. The correct way to look at it is that the day's low is 103 and right now it's trading at 113. So looking extremely positive for India Bull Real Estate right now. On that note, we're taking a break. We're coming back in 2 minutes. But just before we take a break, gentlemen, thank you so much for taking out time for us. Before we go, if you could just give your disclosures. Let's start with you, Vijay.
Any of the stocks talked about today, I do not have any personal holdings. Our customers might be having.
Subra, for you?
No personal holdings in the stocks discussed, but broadly, comments are the views are the same as what we give to the clients.
Imtiaz, disclosures?
Thank you very much, Pankaj and Anisha. The stock which we had discussed today, personally, I'm not holding any of them positions.
SB, disclosures for you?
HPCL, SBI and Sun Pharma, I continue to hold in each of these counters.
Thank you so much, gentlemen, for taking out time for us.